Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong. Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.
Happy Veterans Day, everyone, and welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Michael Connolly is a retired attorney and U.S. Army veteran. He received his Juris Doctorate from LSU in 1973. He specializes in constitutional law. He's also an author of 4 books and freelance writer. He's written The Mortar Men, a book about his father's unit during World War II, Riders in the Sky. The Ghosts and Legends of Philmont Scott Ranch, a patriotic novel, and the story of America and America's liveliest ghosts. He's our guest, and we welcome him to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
You know, I know we're talking about Veterans Day, and it's also, for others, it's a day of remembrance. And I think about the poppy flower and then the Napoleon era, where all those the land was barren and nothing would grow, and all those dead bodies and all that blood, and all of a sudden those red poppies just grew out of nowhere. It's just an amazing imagery of the chaos of war and what grows after war. But one of the things I want for you to consider, especially in World War II, is, I find it fascinating that the Russians, as much criticism as the Soviet Union gets, and the up and down relationship with the United States and the rest of the world, but especially us, no one really, really, really talks about the incredible sacrifice of men and women in World War II and how the war would have been different had Hitler not released his most venomous attacks on the Russians, and how, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm only going back to my history, that the Russians lost more men and had more casualties than all the Allied forces combined. And yet,
that's correct. It was devastating for them.
Yeah, why is it? Do you think people understand the devastation of that war and the role they played, how they held them? And in fact, if they were not involved, and if Hitler had not miscalculated on many occasions, but especially with them, who knows how it would have turned out?
Well, that's exactly true, but people don't know about it. People, particularly the younger generations, don't even know about World War II. I looked at a history book when my oldest boy, who's now a major in the Army, was in high school, and there was like a page and a half about World War II in this whole history book. So they're not being taught about it. They're not being taught about the importance of the sacrifices that were made by all of the Allies in World War II. And it's just incredible to me that the children don't know about our history. They don't know about the Constitution. They don't know about their country's own government, and it's just getting worse.
We're so fortunate to have you on today, and I want you to give us a history lesson about wars and the country and our history and the sacrifices that were made. I mean, it was the bloodiest of ever. It was so bloody. And then you think about Pearl Harbor, and you think about Normandy. It's just so many things, but not just the United States. So many sacrifices were made. And I just want you to do it in clips. Just give a synopsis of what was sacrificed for us to enjoy what we have today.
Well, you look at all the wars the United States has been in. We've had over 2 million men and women who have died fighting for this country. In World War II, it was an all-out war. Everybody was behind our troops, unlike in Vietnam. It was an all-out war. My father's unit was the 87th Chemical Mortar Battalion. They fired the big 4.2 mortars. They landed on the second wave in Utah Beach, and they were in combat for 326 straight days. The Battle of the Bulge, Hurricane Forest. They suffered basically 120% casualties because almost everybody in the unit that landed was either killed, wounded, or captured. and then a lot of the replacements that came in were killed, wounded, or captured. So it was devastating. It was a hard-fought war. We were fighting it on two fronts, and we lost thousands of Marines over there in the Pacific and thousands of members of the Army and Air Force throughout the conflict. And the people at home were sacrificing. They gave up their tires. They gave up gasoline. They gave up a lot of things, a lot of the comforts of being an American. They gave it up so the troops could be well-fed and well-supplied. And this was true in Great Britain. This was true in the Soviet Union. This was true among all of the allies who were fighting. And they won that war. And they won that war because the American people stood behind them. And the members of Congress stood behind them. The government was behind them, unlike the situation we have right now. I mean, it's my oldest son has actually had 6 or 5, I should say, combat tours. He's done a total of almost 72 months in combat since 9/11. And thank God that the people in this country are behind our troops at least. But the government, on the other hand, is not giving these people what they need. And under sequestration, which is about to occur, we are going to get hammered. The veterans in this country were already getting hammered before the election took place because the veterans' benefits were being cut. But veterans' benefits are going to be cut drastically over the next year or so. And it's just not right for us to treat our troops this way, not the people who have gone out and fought to defend us.
What has changed the attitudes about war, about soldiers being heroes and gallant and the best summers of the world? What did Vietnam do to the psyche of the people in this country, Michael?
Well, in Vietnam, the war became unpopular primarily because the media made it unpopular. People do not realize, I talk to people right now about Vietnam, and they do not realize that the soldiers did not lose that war. The American military did not lose that war. We never lost a battle in Vietnam. In 1968, when the Tet Offensive took place, the media jumped on that as being a disaster for Americans. Actually, it was a massive defeat for the Viet Cong. They ceased to exist as a military unit. The North Vietnamese Army had to come in and take their place. There were 50,000 Viet Cong soldiers killed in the Tet Offensive as compared to 2,000 American and South Vietnamese soldiers. That's not a defeat, that's a victory. But it was made into a defeat, and the American soldier was being vilified on the college campuses by the news media. We were just following orders. And now we are reaping the problems from Vietnam. I just got some figures recently that were devastating to me because I had so many friends who fought in Vietnam, and I've lost some of them recently to Agent Orange. It turns out that out of the 1.5 million men and women who actually served in that conflict in the country of Vietnam, 75% of them are now dead. That is the most devastating attrition rate of veterans in a short period of time that we've ever had in the U.S. military. The people that came home from there were not welcome home. A lot of people would not even wear their uniforms because they didn't want to be spit on. I was spit on when I had the uniform on.
Wow.
And it was just, the whole atmosphere is thank God, changed now.
Are our attitudes getting better? Do you think that the kind of conflicts and the wars we have in the past, do you think we're approaching the precipice of more wars? What is your attitude? I mean, even with the situation with General Petraeus and the extramarital affairs, does this further dumb down? I don't want to say it further dumbs down, but how does this play in the psyche of everyday people and around the world about our military?
Well, it plays on the morale of the military to begin with, not just the people around the world, but the members of the military. This type of thing, anytime that you see the news media reporting negative stuff about the military, they play it up. They don't report the victories. They don't report the important things about what our military men and women are doing to help the people in Afghanistan, what they did to help the people in Iraq. And the negative reporting does have an impact. But I see it as not as effective as it was back in the 1960s and 70s with Vietnam. I've got 2 sons in the military. Youngest boy is a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. The oldest boy is a major in combat engineers, and they've been treated very well by the American people. Anytime I'm in an airport or any place for that matter, and I see some soldiers in uniform sitting there having lunch or dinner, I pick up the tab. This has happened with my sons repeatedly. People are looking at them and saying, you are not responsible for what our government does or doesn't do. You are out there trying to defend our freedoms. I think the most disastrous thing that's happened to the military is the fact that in 2010, only about 30% of our military votes were counted in that election. I think it's going to be even worse than that for this election. Ballots were mailed out late, absentee ballots, despite the fact that there's a federal law that requires they be mailed out 45 days in advance, but Eric Holder told the Secretaries of State they didn't have to comply with that law, and he has no right to do that. But I think that's the most devastating thing happening to our military right now, that and the fact that they face massive cuts. What's going to happen when sequestration goes through? We're going to have 1 million men and women basically thrown out of the military, and they're going to be put in the civilian workforce. What's that going to do to unemployment in this country? The military is taking the brunt of the cuts that the government is going to be making, and it's going to devastate our ability to defend ourselves down the road. But the thing like with Betrayus, that is certainly something that nobody wanted to see happen. I wonder why we didn't know about it, why the FBI kept this under wraps until after the election. But the fact of the matter is, this man made a mistake. He's paying for that mistake. It should not be looked on by the American people as something indicative of the men and women that serve in our military.
Hold that. We're coming back to Michael Connolly. Don't go away. Info at RightSideWire.com.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
Do you think academia, from the grade schools, the high schools, the college, do you think they do enough to make people appreciate the sacrifice of our veterans, our soldiers, our military personnel?
Certainly not on the college level. I'm hearing more and more horror stories about servicemen who are coming back from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars who have gone to college and are basically, they're having trouble getting into some colleges. They're being mistreated when they're in the colleges. They have derogatory remarks made about them. This happened to my son when he was got back from being serving overseas and went to college. There was a professor in there who was very down on him because of his service in the military. People in all the kids in this country, from grade school on up, are not being taught adequately, about what our military has done, what the sacrifices are. I know in my American Legion post, we have some World War II veterans still in there, some Korean War veterans, and one of the Korean War veterans was a good friend of mine who recently died. And he at one point told me that he had his son, or grandson, and 7 of the grandson's friends who were about to leave for college were over at his house one day, and this veteran had his Korean War vet hat on. And one of these, and these are high school graduates, one of these kids asked him what the Korean War was. And none of the kids, except for his grandson, knew anything about the Korean War. They had not been taught about it. They did not know that over 50,000 Americans had died in that war. They did not even know we'd fought a war. So no, people are not being adequately taught about what sacrifices have been made and are being made to this day by our military. As a matter of fact, I just pulled something up here a few minutes ago before the show started that really angers me. 171,000 of our veterans are now, it looks like, going to lose TRICARE Prime, which is their primary insurance that they get through the military, the fact that they're veterans. They're going to be switched to another plan, which will cause them to have more out-of-pocket expenses, be more expensive for them and their families. This will be the 4th time in the last few months that benefits to our veterans have been cut, and it's just going to get worse. People don't realize what's happening, and as you say, people in the schools, the kids in the schools are not being taught about the importance of American military to the history of this country.
So where are they learning it?
Excuse me?
So where are they learning this history and the importance of these contributions?
Well, they're not learning it in school. They're hopefully learning it from their parents or their grandparents. We're losing the greatest generation, though. The people who had taught me, my father has long since died, the people who taught me to be patriotic, the people who taught me to love my country and to be willing to serve in the military, they are dying off, or they're all dead already. And these are the same people who taught my generation. My generation then served in Vietnam, a lot of us, and we were vilified for that service. But we still taught our children to protect their country and to believe in the Constitution, to believe in freedom, and to be willing to fight for that freedom. But the people in this latest generation are losing that. Now, my sons are in the military, and they've been willing to fight. They're all Eagle Scouts. They were raised to believe in this country, and they have a sense of patriotism. But if parents are not teaching their children that, and they're not getting it in schools, where are they going to get it? They're just not going to.
They're not, and they're not going to appreciate it. Tell us more about what this day means and how it should be celebrated and appreciated.
Well, it is a day for remembering the sacrifices made by the veterans and by the current members of the military and by their families. I mean, when a soldier goes to war, the wives, the husbands, the children, they go to war too. They may not have the uniform on, they may not be carrying a weapon, but they are sacrificing. They have a loved one overseas, and believe me, it's extremely hard to have someone overseas fighting in a war. I have my sons over there, and I worry about them constantly. I'm proud of them, but I worry about them. People need to realize the sacrifices that are made by the members of the military and by their families. I've heard it put this way. A veteran, military veteran, is someone who at some point in their life signed a blank check made out to the United States of America and to the people of the United States of America saying that I will lay my life on the line to defend what we have. We take an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We don't take an oath of office to defend the members of Congress or to defend the president or defend any person. We take an oath of office to defend our country and our Constitution and to defend the people of the United States. That is what people need to remember when they think about Veterans Day or Memorial Day. They need to think about what sacrifices are made and what veterans have done for this country and continue to do. The veterans in this country, many of them are active in organizations that are very patriotic. American Legion, for example, sponsors a number of patriotic programs for students, for kids. The VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, does the same thing. We continue to maintain our oath of office, even back in civilian life. We continue to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Talk about the lack of appreciation and support for these men and women when they return home. How horrific and how depressing and just humiliating.
Well, like I said, it's much better now than it was during the Vietnam War. I mean, when I see a fellow veteran from, that era, we say welcome home to each other because nobody welcomed us home. There was not a formal welcome home until a few years ago when Ross Perot sponsored a big celebration for Vietnam veterans in Branson, Missouri. And now people, at last, it was 25 years after the war was over, after I had stopped serving, had stopped putting on the uniform. It was 25 years before some stranger, somebody I didn't know outside of my family, thanked me for my service. They saw me wearing a U.S. Army veteran's hat at a football game, and they came up and made a special point to come up and shake my hand. It brought tears to my eyes because we had not been appreciated. But even the people that are coming home today, while they're getting some thanks and they're getting appreciation, they're getting applauded in airports and this sort of thing, the government is ignoring them to a great extent. We have this under Obamacare, and this to me is unbelievable that the Congress would allow this to be in Obamacare. But of course, they didn't read the bill, so they didn't know what they were passing. The wounded warriors who have lost arms and legs in this current war, they are going to, under Obamacare, have to pay a tax to get artificial limbs.
Oh, my
Even
goodness.
if the Veterans Administration is paying for the artificial limbs, there is now a tax on it, and the Veterans Administration is not going to pay that tax. Therefore, these people are going to have to pay a tax to the federal government that they lost their arm or leg defending. They're going to have to pay a tax in order to get an artificial limb. And that's an example of the way these people are being treated. And with all the cuts being made in veterans benefits and in medical benefits, and by the way, it's very interesting that these cuts are being made only on military personnel and their families or veterans and their families. The civilian employees of the Department of Defense who have the same care, they are not losing any benefits. They happen to be members of a union that supported Obama's reelection. So they're not losing their benefits. It's only the military that are having them taken away.
How does the public take up the mantle and change this?
Well, the main thing they need to do is they need to contact members of Congress right now and say that during this lame duck session, they have to do something to end the prospect of sequestration. Whatever it takes to do, they need to do it. The members of Congress is what I'm talking about. And people need to contact them. Otherwise, these are going to happen automatically. Now, this should have been set up in the first place. Of course, I questioned from the beginning the constitutionality of the so-called super committee of 12 members of Congress.
I agree with you on that.
It was unconstitutional. It shouldn't have been done, but it was done. And now we're unfortunately about to reap the fruits of their failure. And it was designed to fail. Everybody knew that they weren't going to be able to reach an agreement to cut $1.5 trillion out of the budget. So the military is going to suffer. And then Obama, in addition to what's going to happen under sequestration, is proposing another $500 billion worth of cuts to the military. On top of the $500 billion he's already cut, and on top of the $600 billion that's going to come out as a result of sequestration. This will come out of the pockets of our veterans. This will take away our ability to fight and defend ourselves. People need to stand up and say, this is enough. Something has got to be done. They need to contact their members of Congress right now.
Does it bother you that fewer and fewer members of Congress and people who represent us in the three branches of government, very few of their kids if any, now serve in any of the branches of our federal government in any capacity?
Well, that certainly bothers me. It's bothered me for quite some time because they don't want their kids to serve. They're willing to send other people's kids off to war. They're willing to cut the benefits for veterans who are other people's kids. They're willing to do all kinds of things with the military, but they don't want their children involved. They don't want their children taken out of their Ivy League schools or going to the military after they graduate from college. It's just incredible to me. We have a bunch of people in Congress who profess to care about the military. And yesterday, listening to President Obama and some others talking about the great things that the veterans have done for the country and how grateful they are, they're not grateful. If you're grateful, show your gratitude. Defend the veterans, defend the members of the military, protect their health care benefits, protect their pensions. Don't be planning to take away things from them and give them to somebody else, which is basically what they're doing.
So you think they're showboating?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely showboating. It's been going on for years now.
Listen,
it
thank
was
you.
Congress.
Listen, I cannot thank you enough for just hold there. We have a question. Just hold there. We're coming back, okay? We're going to say goodbye, but just hold tight. Going to take a few calls. I'm Armstrong Williams. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
I see that Dr. Gary Bernard is also on the line where this whole hour is about veterans. Dr. Bernard, welcome back to the show.
Good afternoon. How are you, Armstrong?
Just fine. So, Michael Connolly, let me go to the phone line and take a few calls before we say goodbye to you. Miss Paulette, happy Veterans Day, and thank you for calling.
I am a wife of a veteran and that served 20 years. I am a mother of two children that are currently serving. One's Army, one is the United States Air Force, and my husband served in the Navy. My father was a World War II veteran. And what I see now, it is terribly wrong. We already went to a senseless war that built Halliburton and built the oil rigs and the monies for the other administration before President Obama. So we've lost money. So we need monies to be for the veterans, but as long as we stay in a war that are in an area that we should not be in, we need to help them to learn how to take care of themselves while we secure our own selves, and therefore the money can come back to the homeless veterans, the veterans that have been injured mentally and physically. We need to take care of them first. Now, I don't disagree with what President Obama is proposing, because this will help us with our money. But when people propose not to work with the president and still they did not get what they want, but look at this now. President Obama was reelected by the people for the people. So we chose him because we wanted him, because we knew the rest of it would have been a mess if we had voted for other folks, because Governor Romney, his children never went to war.
You know what? This is not really this is not really about President Obama and Governor Romney. It's really
don't
about,
say what he did. He
veterans.
didn't do anything wrong.
Mike Conley, you also are a freelance writer. How do you respond to this caller?
Well, basically, we're talking about the veterans here.
Yes,
and
we are.
By the way, to the caller, thank you, your family, for all their service.
Absolutely.
Because those are the type of people that have made this country great. Politics needs to be set aside at this point.
Absolutely.
The election is over. What needs to be done, and this is one of the things I'm working on with the United States Justice Foundation, is we need to fight for our veterans. We need to make sure that their right to vote is protected. We need to make sure that they don't lose their benefits. We need to make sure that they are honored for their service across the board. And of course, your veterans, and your active military, a lot of them, while the active military did not get to vote, yet they're out there fighting for the right to vote. Now, this was not anybody's particular fault. Well, it was people's fault because they did not comply with federal law. That's one of the things that with the USJF we're doing, is trying to push to make sure that the next election, federal law is complied with. And that doesn't matter who's in the White House or who's in Congress. These local states, the secretaries of state, have to comply with federal law and make sure that the people out there fighting to protect our right to vote, in fact, get the right to vote.
Well, I'm glad you're saying that, because I really appreciate that, because both of my children have been in Afghanistan and Kosovo, and my husband served in Desert Storm.
Yes, we're saluting the veterans. That's not even about Romney and Obama. This is about us, the families, the sacrifices, the appreciation, not the disrespect that sometimes they get, and understand the history of their sacrifices and the number of people that die so we can enjoy the freedoms that we celebrate today. Ms. Paulette, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Michael Conley, your final thoughts?
Yes, that I want everybody to take a moment and remember the veterans, remember the people who are fighting right now for our country. And when you see someone wearing a hat or a shirt that says proud U.S. veteran or U.S. Army veteran, or you see somebody currently in the military in uniform, shake their hand. You have no idea how much that means to us. It's just somebody to come up and say thank you and shake our hands.
Much appreciation for what you do, and God bless you and all the best.
Well,
Michael,
thank you for having me on the show.
Let me thank you for your service as well.
Thank you.
Take care, Michael, and thank you for taking time out of your day to be a guest on the show.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We should salute our veterans more, and you can't appreciate one's sacrifice unless you really understand what it is they've sacrificed, Dr. Bernard.
That's a fact. That's like anything, huh? Until you have experienced what other people are experiencing, it's very hard to have an appreciation. And that's why I think what he was saying earlier in the show about educating in schools and our families, educating our kids so that they will have an appreciation. They won't unless we expose them to it. So I'm a big fan of exposing our kids to the kind of sacrifice men and women have been doing for years for our country and for our freedom.
Yeah, how do we console the families of veterans and the loss, and then just the injuries, and then also many of these veterans that return home, they're not the same people who left their wives and their young children, man. How do we help them adjust? What do we need to do?
Well, it takes a whole bunch of people. It takes a huge team of folks to help support these families, but the veterans who are returning, we have them here at the Center for the Intrepid at Fort Sam Houston here in San Antonio, and they come back without limbs, and they spend months to years trying to rehab and get artificial limbs, and then try to rehab and get used to them and acclimate to them, and their families are displaced, and it's just a real sad situation. Any loss is a very difficult thing to support people in, because it's such a personal, deep, grieving, gut-wrenching kind of experience. But without people that have some clue about what they're going through and being willing to reach out and help through donations, help through taking care of kids, whatever it is, formulating a team of folks that care and will reach out. There are many volunteers that are doing that daily. That does mean something to them. It doesn't take away the grief and the pain, but it does mean something. And it's this sense of belonging that helps us at least feel like our feet are still placed on the ground instead of, having this great, great despair.
What is it that veterans really want from the American people? I mean, I don't understand why they suffer in terms of the benefits and the care. I don't think there's some things that even money institutions can address. Some adapt far more easily coming back, leaving the war fields, and their dead brethren are behind, and what they've witnessed instead of the gore and the blood and just the decapitation of their loved ones. And some find it very difficult to return to a normal life. They have these nightmares, they become violent, and sometimes it leads to the death of their own spouse.
That's right. Well, trauma is a very interesting phenomenon. We just don't understand it completely, that's for sure. But we do all handle it very differently. You can see that not only in combat kinds of trauma and post-trauma events, but you'll see it when there are automobile accidents or plane crashes, or the tragedies that you see with Hurricane Katrina or Sandy and loss of life there. Some people will have these recurring nightmares and this very intrusive kind of thinking that just devastates them. Others don't. And there's a lot of brain research going on right now that looks at some of the mechanisms that seem to be part of the triggering mechanism. But then that's not the end of the story. We're very complicated. We bring to an event our past, and sometimes we've had layers of trauma in our life where we haven't been appreciated, we've been abused, we've been put down, or whatever it may be. And then you have these rather large traumatic events, and many times it's just more than a person can handle. And our suicide rates are going up, especially with our armed services folks and our veterans returning and out of country, in country serving. Our suicide rates have gone up. It's just a very traumatic thing. And, I just think when it comes to our freedoms, I think there are people that will sign up for it, write that blank check, as Michael said. But, then we have the politics involved in it, and we have reactive kinds of placements of our armed forces in countries doing things, in conflicts doing things that we haven't really, it seems, thought out. And some of those things we haven't thought out is, what do we do with these folks as they return? It's just a tremendous burden on them, their families, and society. And it seems like those are the last things that are thought of when we engage in these activities. I don't mean that to be a political statement, it's just a reality.
You know, it's so traumatic. It's so overwhelming. We really want all the veterans or family members, if your children are veterans or relatives, to just call in and salute veterans on this day and tell your story and share with Dr. Gary Bernard. We'd love to hear from you because we really understand and celebrate the sacrifice, not only on the battlefield, but the toll it takes upon you once you return home, your exposure to the cigarettes and the drugs and the alcohol just to get through the day. I mean, and you really don't get the psychological help and the therapy that is necessary that you address the kind of situations that are unfolding just before your very eyes, sometimes every second. I'm Armstrong Williams. Dr. Gary Bernard is our guest. Our phone lines are open, 1-803-733-5620. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Whether it's their impact on prison guards, law enforcement officials, business executives, employees, or marriage and relationships, Lored is dedicated to changing the individual and institutions around the globe. Lored's diverse network and training courses can help provide you with the tools you need to both wisely and confidently lead, manage, and supervise yourself as well as others. Lored Business Network, a proven system for achieving success in your business and life. Please visit their website and begin this life-lasting journey with Lored today, www.lored.org.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
You know, it is amazing, Dr. Bernard. I think something that we don't really can grasp is the fact that you mentioned Sandy, somebody could mention Katrina, but you know what? When you're in a war zone, and a storm is like a war zone, but when you're in a real war zone, like with bullets being fired at you, you see people dead and shot right beside you and bleeding on you and you can't move. That has a devastating psychological effect until to the point where people don't even recognize who they are and what they are anymore.
Yeah, it's quite a unique experience, and I have not had it, but I've talked to literally hundreds of veterans who have, and it's just very unique. It's almost a one-of-a-kind experience. You're trained to do things over and over and over and over, very regimented, routine. You're trained to trust your brother or sister as a comrade, and it's all about that cohesiveness, and then you see them die right before you, or even worse, you see death is one thing, but what they see on a daily basis is magnified many times over, and it's this constant vigilance to your environment, knowing that that can happen at any minute. So it's in terms of just a human experience, it takes incredible energy and resources just to stay alive without bullets coming at you, but just stay alive in that kind of theater, because it's a constant thing. It's relentless. Even when it's time to go to sleep, it never leaves you. And so this is just a very unique experience, and it's very hard for them to come back and expect anyone who hasn't been there to understand it. And for sure their spouse, more than likely, and their children have no clue. And so you have this tremendous burden in returning and trying to re-enter the atmosphere, so to speak, get back to what's called normal living, whatever that is for them. And then the family, especially the spouse that stayed behind, was a single parent. And many times they're used to that because there's multiple deployments. And so you have all the stress of trying to manage family. Your loved one is thousands of miles away. At any moment, you could hear that they lost their life. It's just an incredible human experience. And sacrifice is one thing, but that's this. It is a sacrifice, but it's hard to put that into words, isn't it?
Well, you can't really put it in the words. Zeke, I haven't heard from you in a long time. Welcome back to the show, and thank you for calling.
Yeah, Armstrong, how you doing today to your guests? I can relate to what you guys are talking about because I had a brother-in-law who went to Vietnam, and he was married to my sister. They had 3 wonderful children, and the guy was a good man, and he went to the war. And when he was never right when he came back, never right. I mean, it was so bad. But some of the stories that he would tell me, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And one of the stories that he told me, he said he had to go into a hut one night, and there was men and women and little children, 2 years old, and some of them had bombs on them, and he had to shoot everybody in the place, the children, everybody. He had to kill, and that was devastating to the guy. But anyway, he came back home, and my sister couldn't take it from him. I mean, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't do nothing, and he would stay out all night, and he would even try to beat her, and it was just crazy. He passed away about 8 years ago, but it's a sad story. But I'm just saying, I can relate to what you guys are really saying, because I've experienced it.
And I'm sure, Zeke, you tried everything. Your wife, you tried everything. You were sympathetic, but you literally had to give up.
Right. That's exactly what my sister had to do. It was either life or death for her. And she didn't want to, do what she had to do. But she had to divorce the guy because he was just, and he couldn't get no help. I mean, he didn't get the proper help.
You know what? You know what he's saying to us, Dr. Bernard? He literally never left the war zone. He brought it home.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's exactly
right.
Right.
But can you imagine that, Armstrong, walking into a room and there's children 2 years old and up, and you have to kill everybody? How could you be normal after that? Nobody can.
Especially when you had a father and had had young children yourself.
Right.
And it was not the children's fault that somebody used them as human shields and strapped them with those explosives, but you had no choice. It was either you or them.
That's right. That's right. And that's what these guys go through. I mean, and there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these guys across the country right now.
You're exactly right.
It's sad.
You're
sad,
exactly right. And even those who say they have great faith going in and coming out, they might make it, they might not. There's no way to really predict these things. But whether they make it or not, they carry that experience with them. We can block out bits and pieces of our experience. Some people are better at it than others. But that is something that you could never give up, could you? I mean, that's such a potent experience
Right.
And such an evil that how could you ever cleanse yourself from that? So
right.
You're right. We have a lot of folks walking the streets today carrying those experiences and images with them.
In our country, I mean, our government should take better care of these guys, and also, I think they do not pay the police officers and the firemen the amount of money to protect us like they do. I mean, it seems like these guys should be on front line. The veterans, the police officers, the firemen, and the teachers as well. But I don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Well, Zeke, we really appreciate your really giving us this riveting story that really brings it close to home. And it's just you just have to walk in their shoes. And thank you for listening to today's broadcast.
Thank you, Armstrong.
And that is the question, Dr. Bernard. What is out there that can return someone to a sane mind after witnessing and experiencing that, and not only experiencing it, being a part of having to use your ammunition to take these children out?
Yeah. Well, I would like to say that there is a way to do that because I know it has been done. But I got to tell you, Armstrong, it's not likely, is it? I mean, that is such a potent experience. I think if we provide help in a number of ways, it's going to be through helping the family be prepared and ready for the reentry. And there's been some changes where that is going on. I fear there's not enough of that. Helping debrief the combat service person that is returning back into country, debrief them and get them go through a few phases of debriefing so that they can slowly decompress and have a better chance at reentering. Have the proper welcome and honor and thanks from a grateful nation. And so we have a responsibility to be grateful, and then we need to turn that into our resources, give of our time, give of our money, our resources, and try to get on board with local efforts and national efforts to prepare more of these outreach programs. The VA, the vets do that somewhat, but I don't know how many vets I've talked to that get so frustrated with the bureaucratic mess of trying to even navigate where they're supposed to go, much less what to do when they get there. So anything we can do as a community, local communities, to welcome these vets back from conflict and have their families in our prayers and in our hearts and in our everyday help and volunteerism, already be trying to help out with that so that when they come back, there's a network, sort of a safety net for them to return to. And then I don't think we have to have all MD, PhD type providers. We need more of that. I believe that. But there are a lot of ways we can be training volunteers to help out. Some of these are veterans from other foreign wars, and they're more than willing to help out and be involved in support groups for the family and for the returning service person. And it's just going to take a whole lot of that. But, here we are at a time where there aren't jobs available for many of them. The economy is really down. Their family has already gone through great suffering. And so it's just a huge mess to try to tackle. And, many of them are coming back with physical injuries, much less the mental ones.
It just rips you apart hearing it, And, Dr. Bernard, how can people get more information about you?
Well, they can go to two different places. I have a website called, it's www.thepower-parent.com. And the other one is my practice website. It's called www.adhdclinicsa.com. And it's a professional practice. We do some ADHD stuff with kids, but it's that's just a clinic model. We treat all kinds of things. And here in San Antonio, one of the things is veterans and their families. So they can reach me in those two different ways.
You know, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I just really appreciate it and your wisdom and your experience in this field. And just all the best to you. And we, again, salute our veterans.
We do. I'm with you.
Yes. Thank you, and God bless. And God bless America. All veterans, no matter where they are in the world, whatever country they're serving and fighting for.
Thanks, Armstrong.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
The sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry's Soul